Good evening. It is Wednesday, April the 17th. It's about 6:15 p.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson with Weather Flow bringing you a preliminary forecast for the Charleston Race Week 2024. This will go out to the page, probably Chucktown Wind Report first, and then I'll be passing on the Charleston Race Week. So that way folks can take a look. I'm 3 hours back in time. I'm over in Arizona and won't be back till late afternoon. Hopefully I'll make the local knowledge talk by 6 p.m. if the flights allow me to tomorrow. That has to also include getting through traffic, 5 o'clock traffic on a Friday afternoon. So we'll see if I make it. I talked to Randy Drafts. I'm trying to get there when I can to be able to present. But either way, this will be a preliminary look at what we're going for. So let me just put myself in the corner here. Here's the Charleston Race Week Facebook page if you want to continue to check out what they have going on. Lots of buzz of activity, and they're covering all the event really well thus far for weeks leading up to today. Looks like they're going to do a really good job posting into this group, and you can pull pictures and all kinds of information as you go. Now, daily, we'll also be doing the Quantum Daily Briefings, which I'll be a part of, and we'll be doing that Friday morning, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning, 8 a.m. So make sure that you register with Quantum to get onto that briefing, that weather briefing. It'll be an intense morning webinar on what we're doing. You can bring your questions, your feedback, anything that you have, a good in-depth reading on what's going to happen on the course each day through the course race. All right, so with that said, looking at the visible satellite right now, we have kind of a lot of, I would say, atmospheric shrapnel up to our north along the North Carolina-South Carolina border. Just a lot of old frontal activity that's gone stagnant. You have some cirrus and stratus, mid-level upper clouds kind of streaming overhead, no rain, but just kind of thick and hazy clouding that's kind of muddling the skies, and that's going to continue to be what's in the forecast even into tomorrow and Saturday. So we are going to be put into a prefrontal zone in time as the cold front does work its way in through the west and passes through sometime overnight Saturday into Sunday morning. And then we're going to get a switch up of not only air temperatures, but also we'll see more sun, but probably a strong east-northeast wedge with that. But looking at the visible satellite as we go forward, we have high pressure over us right now. That's going to continue to be the driving mechanism for our weather for today, tomorrow. We have to watch those sea breezes because now we're getting to some warm air in the mid-upper 80s. And our sea surface temperatures are still cool in the mid-60s. So what does that mean? Well, the dreaded two words, marine layer. So those that are in the offshore pursuit class will be feeling that more than the guys inshore inside the harbor, where the winds are going to be stronger, the winds lighter on the outside, simply because it's a stability factor that occurs. As we go forward into time, we see the high pressure sort of realigning just to the southwest of Bermuda. And as we get into Thursday, see the high pressure really remaining pretty firm. We're going to probably start with light westerly early land breezes that transition to south-southwest sea breezes, tilting a little more southwest in the afternoon. Same thing as we go into Thursday night. Right into Friday, we see that cold front trying to make its way together across the Midwest as an upper low over the Great Lakes pulls north and drags this front towards our area. Now, it will be weakening. It does show a lot of rain on the windward side of the Appalachians, and then that rain will likely fall apart as we get into Friday night and into Saturday. We could see a few showers overnight associated with a warm front, and then by the time we wake up, that warm front will likely have lifted. And then we are in a prefrontal zone for Saturday. Now, how fast this front approaches has yet to be determined. So we're still a few days out. But it looks like high pressure to the west is really going to be building in with a northeast or east-northeast wedge behind that. So this is going to be the weather to really watch out for, and how much of this really digs down in behind this trough. So not the strongest cold front, but we've seen this before in the finals where the winds come up higher than what the modeled values are, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Let me go ahead and end the pin here, see if I can figure out how to do that without stopping the video. Sometimes it just does not want to cooperate with me. Exit drawing, there we go. Yeah, this is like a different tool than I'm used to, so apologies there. Looking at the Tempest 1 map, so I'm going to use sail flow as we get into Friday, but for right now, for all intents and purposes, I want to be able to pull sea surface temperatures, which are now at 67.1, which is good. That means they're coming up. If we get near 70 by Saturday, we may see some of that marine layering issue eliminated altogether. It usually takes to about 73, 74 degrees where the sea surface temperatures will actually allow for that convective coupling along the beaches. But you can see here what's going on where we have 9 knots at Isle of Palms, 7 knots at Folly Beach. I mean, there's some ups and downs. Just as the wind is trying to come up along the sea breezes, then it fades out because there's just too much decoupling, even as much as being forced. Now, if we get that cold front moving in on Saturday, that could force a little bit more wind through the area through low-level jetting. But we know that the front's going to be weakening as it comes along. So that may not be an option. But either way, look what, inside the harbor today, whole different story where we're seeing mid to upper teens averages and knots, and then we're pushing into the low to mid 20s and gusts. And I think that's going to be the case pretty much tomorrow and into Saturday. There may be some variants of this where we see maybe just solid mid-teens, but I think a good call for tomorrow as we get into Friday and Saturday inside the harbor where you have winds that come across land and then settle down. We're looking at 14 to 18 knots each day with gusts into those low and possible mid-20s. The averages could ride on the higher end of that as we get to the higher fluxing of each day between, say, 12 p.m. and 3 p.m., maybe even as early as 11 a.m., but it usually takes a little bit of time for the sea breeze circulations to get going. So with that said, we're going to be showing a slide during the event where we look at why this happens. And if we zoom in on land, the reason why is because with cooler sea surface temperatures, we have that stability factor, right? As soon as the wind comes over land off the ocean, it meets those warm thermals and it becomes unstable air, right? Or it creates instability. And as it comes down over the harbor of that cooler water, once again, the unstable environment is there. The only issue that you see is inconsistency in speed. You see winds streeting across the harbor in different areas. It's not spread evenly, nor is it distributed evenly in lines across the harbor. So one thing you got to remember is if there's cumulus cloud lines, and we'll be talking about each day, there may be some favorable areas to be in during the course if you see the sea breeze front pushing ashore with any cumulus clouds. But when you have this case with stratus and upper cirrus, it's really masked. And it just makes it a little bit difficult. So just know that along the shore, offshore, these winds can continue to be lower in the 8 to 12 knot ranges, and then farther offshore, even a little bit less. So I would be concerned about that if you're the offshore pursuit class, you may be only looking at 5 to 9 knots out there, whereas inside the harbor, we're looking at 15 to 19 or 14 to 18. And we've seen this before in years past. It just matters when the sea surface temperatures come up to speed. We've got the model view, our high temperatures through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, upper 80s, may even touch 90, 91 inland on Friday. And all that means is probably a little bit more marine layer. You may see a slight haze on the water. Depends on the humidity factor, relative humidity. If that goes up, it could create a fog bank just off the coast or along the immediate beaches. But usually it's kind of like a whitish glow that you might see across the waters because of that heat mixing down with the cool. And there's just a stable layer sitting right over the water along those beaches until it mixes over land. Sunday, a whole different story, though. At 75 degrees, looks like we're going to see an east-northeast wind cut across the area. And let's talk about that real quick. We're in all the models here. Move myself out the way, and here we go. As we look into Thursday, looks like a lot of model agreement. And I'm only picking Isle of Palms as a point along the coastline because it does show a little bit of a higher bias in the model selection instead of being inside the harbor. But we're talking 10 to 14. Obviously, we're probably going to go a little bit lower than that, maybe 9 to 13 beaches, and then still 14 to 18 in the harbor. Get into Friday, almost the same scenario. We have these early light morning west or west-southwest land breezes that transition over to these modest sea breezes, moderate inside the harbor. Getting into Saturday, we could see that west wind last a little bit longer as that backdoor front tries to edge to the south a little bit. And then again, by early to mid-afternoon, we're seeing those sea breezes come up from the south-southwest. And then Sunday is sort of a day that I consider this is going to be where your models may underperform from what actually happens. If we're seeing winds veer all the way to the east-northeast, then we rest assured to add a few knots to this. So we could be seeing 16 to 20 knots. We guess 22 to 25 by the time we roll around 11, 12 o'clock. So just beware of that as we get into Sunday morning. It gets a little bit tricky. We'll also show a slide on how those winds are distributed across the harbor and along the offshore course. But just know that pretty much the winds in the morning start north-northeast, right? There's some radiational land cooling and the winds start offshore. And as the sun comes up, the winds start to veer more northeast and the sun comes up even higher. The radiational heating begins and we get that veering inshore, and eventually that side shore to onshore flow comes right down the ICW, distributes across the harbor, and then you get that full-blown east-northeast wedge built into the coast all the way across for the day. So that's your typical thing. And then as we get into the evening, it backs offshore again. But all things to come for this week. I just wanted to kind of point out some of the basic winds. It looks like there are going to be some good winds. I think overall, the offshore pursuit class is going to have some challenges. Any offshore races are going to have some of those challenges. But then inside the harbor, I think there's going to be plenty of wind for everybody. It looks like a pretty good race this year. The only thing we got to look at is maybe a little bit of rain as we get into Friday night, Saturday, as that front tries to edge in Saturday afternoon. We have to look at a few isolated showers, possible storms, but hopefully holding off till late afternoon. Overall, looks like a good weekend ahead. A little hot, hazy start, and then a cool finish. With that said, everybody, take care, and we'll be back. Maybe I'll see you at Yorktown tomorrow, maybe not. If not, then Friday morning, 8 a.m. on the Quantum webinar series. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care.